Hello and welcome to YHTV's Meditation Madness. We do need that meditation to take us out of the madness of our minds, of our world, of our environment. And here we are. We're bringing you an excerpt from a clip that I did with Stephen Sadlier. He is an incredible Shaktipat meditation master here in California, actually, and he studied with some of the best. Here is Stephen Sadlier, medication through meditation. Enjoy. So here we are, Stephen. We are honored to have you back with us again. I know we did a special on you last week where you were able to allow our listeners and our viewers to join you with the Shaktipat meditation because you are actually teaching your self-realization course tonight. You're starting a new series tonight. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, that's right. It's exciting.
So I have had so many questions about who Stephen Sadlier is. So can you tell us how this began? Can you tell us from your childhood, was it something that you were already aligned with?
Yeah, it must have been part of my destiny because by my mother's account, I would sit cross-legged on my bunk bed even when I was 5 years old with my eyes rolled up. And I had no idea what I was doing. You know, I didn't know there was a meditation. My parents weren't particularly spiritual. My grandparents on my father's side were Baptists. And so I was introduced to God through the traditional way, through Jesus, who I still have a place in my heart for. But my grandmother could never give me instruction as to who I was and the purpose of life and what God is, except for referring to sections of the Bible. So even as a very young child, I started investigating different spiritual paths on my own. I'd go around on my bicycle to different churches, synagogues in my neighborhood, just asking people, what do you guys do? What's this about? And I had times where I would speak to what we might think of as other entities or energies as a child. You know, my mother called them make-believe friends because they didn't see these orbs of light, or they didn't have an encounter with what we might think of as an angelic being. But I kind of grew up with that. So you never spoke to your parents about this. You never shared the fact that this is what you were seeing. Well, I did a little bit, but you know, like a parent in the 60s might say, she goes, "Oh, well, you're imagining things." Growing up all through elementary school, I didn't hang out with kids. I never went to softball. I didn't do the things other kids did. And my mother worked while I was in elementary school, so I would just kind of hike off into the hills behind my house, and I always liked being near nature anyway, and I would just sit. So I kind of had a natural calling to sit, and then I started going to a yoga class that was at the rec center in Corona Del Mar, and instead of going to play softball or some of the normal things that kids do, I was practicing yoga. I would go home from school and watch Richard Hiddleman's Yoga for Today when it was still in black and white.
I remember that.
You know, it tells you how old I am now. But that was my introduction to yoga and meditation. And then when I went to this yoga class in Corona Del Mar, the teacher would say, "Oh, well, I see you already know how to meditate." And I didn't know I knew how to meditate. I'd had a vision of someone I later found out was the avatar Sai Baba. And I got instruction to meditate kind of on the inner or in a lucid dream, depending on how you would view it. And that was my introduction, was more an inner teaching. And then at 16, as soon as I bought my first car, which was a Volkswagen Beetle, I headed up the 395, which is a highway. It comes up the backside of the Sierra Nevada mountains of California. I grew up in Newport Beach. And I went backpacking by myself. I used to like to go up into the wilderness. And one day I climbed up behind what's known as the Palisades Glacier. There's not much of it left anymore. But there was a mountain up there, and I sat up there like in the traditional Ziggy cartoon, you know, cross-legged, praying and meditating, beseeching God to reveal himself and explain to me who I was and why I was born. And I got this epiphany or this calling to it felt like God had asked me to study all the religions of the world and write a book about it. So at the age of 16, for the next 20 years, my life, and now really my entire adult life, has been first to study all the religious teachings and spiritual paths and teachers of the world, write a book about it, and after garnering so much information from so many gurus around the world, I began teaching. So my life was first mostly in gathering and now teaching.
There is so many questions about the work that you're doing and the work that you're passing on to others. Is like, who is this? What is this? We hear about so many different forms of meditation, between the Zen meditation, the Buddhist meditations, and it goes on and on. But it's like, okay, why is this one so powerful? Because of this transference of energy, you activated people within so that they're actually feeling that resonate immediately. It's an immediate response, really.
Exactly. It's direct.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing to believe. There's no one to follow. I'm not asking people to follow me or even believe what I say. But we all know there's something making our heart beat, and we don't make that happen. And the same thing, it makes my heart beat, makes your heart beat, makes everyone's heart beat. The same spirit or life force or Shakti, whatever you want to call it, is flowing through every living thing throughout the entire universe. We're all plugged into the same source, like trees or leaves on the tree of life. So Shaktipat is really a matter of connecting to that life force within you that is you. That's what continues on after we drop the body. But most people really never connect with that life force or spirit that they are. They wait till they die. And so they go through their whole life not really knowing the true nature of themselves. That's why self-realization is at the core of all the world's teachings. Is man, know thyself.
What I hear and like for myself, is I feel like I'm a forever student. Do you feel that way as well? That you just continue to grow and there's so much more to learn?
Yes. Well, this vehicle we call Stephen. First of all, I don't think of myself as a human being, but I can't deny that the form and brain is there, and I am not a perfect vehicle. My brain is continually trying to, how would you say, expand its capacity for compassion and love, and increase not only information, but my ability to communicate effectively and help other people. That's an ongoing process.
And I'm sure with all these different students that come through your teachings, that they're also bringing new aspects to the environment.
Yes. And what they're really doing is they're reflecting back to me whatever I need to see. We're all reflections of each other. And so it gives me feedback to how I'm being heard as well. So I can develop myself to be a more effective teacher, I hope.
So I also, for a brief moment, before we started this, there was a question that came in about energy. And you had said that you also studied martial arts at one point?
Yes, all the Taoist and Buddhist arts, and that's right. Segovia had a question, didn't he, about my kung fu master. His name was Master Ho, or Tony Ho, who was the all China national martial arts champion from Shanghai, and he immigrated to the United States and began teaching different police departments, grips, and things like this. And I had the good fortune to study with him. And the story that Segovia, I think, wanted me to recount was that the energy that was in his body, the chi that he had built up through his Tai Chi and Qigong, was so powerful that he could throw you against the room without physically touching you. He could actually just expand the energy that would physically move your body if you were standing straight up, so that you'd have to step backwards or you'd actually bounce off the wall. One time, he had taken one of his students to a martial arts competition, and somebody else that had heard of Tony, and if you'd see Tony, he's not particularly big, he's not particularly strong, he doesn't look imposing in any way, shape, or form. He's always got a little smile. He's like a little Buddha. And somebody came up and tried to test him, came up and did a kick to see how he'd respond. And because Tony would never fight anybody, he just refused to fight. He put up his arm to block the punch. This guy fractured his leg in 30 places just from one kick trying to hit Tony. The strength and the energy that would move from his body was like trying to kick an iron post, in other words. So he never even came to a competition again. He wouldn't show up because he'd see all these macho people trying to show off what they think they know. But in martial arts, the true power isn't in the form of the kicking or the punching. It's really energy work. Two masters come together. They know who's going to win before they ever move their body. There is no kicking and fighting per se.
Not necessary.
It's all about energy.
Not necessary. It's so funny growing up, of course, my Asian side, watching these old kung fu movies and things like that, where that's what it is. The masters would just put up the palm of their hand and people go flying across the room. And what was interesting is, watching people do Tai Chi and the masters that do Tai Chi, and the ability to see the energy actually emanating from their hands as they're moving slowly. It's so magnificent. It is just so magnificent. And yet, as you say, you look at them, they're petite in size, and yet you can see all this strength, the inner strength that is so built out. So
exactly. And it's similar to the Shaktipat. Shaktipat's at a different gradient. Chi is a denser physical energy that's used in the body, where Shaktipat is really a spiritual energy that it only comes into a physical form when you try and channel it through you. And this is what we do at Self-Awareness Institute, is we work with this innate, both intelligence and innate energy, you might think of it as spirit, and conduct it. Learn how to not only pick it up like a radio receiver, but build it up inside you so that your biomagnetic fields or your spirit energy or your aura, if you want to call it that, gets bigger and brighter and stronger, but also that you learn to calibrate at a higher level of consciousness. You learn to tune in, you might say, to these higher frequencies or higher states of consciousness that actually begin to transcend time, space, energy, and matter. There's a whole other world that isn't in the three-dimensional world. You might think of it as a celestial world that actually is in this physical world as well, but it is unseen by most people.
So Shaktipat is, I'm just kind of coming back to something that you just said. So it is the transference of a spiritual energy.
Yes. It's Shakti in general is what makes everything tick. There's Shakti in every living being. There's Shakti in the earth itself, in the minerals itself, in every atom, and in every universe. There's, in other words, from latent potential to patent expression. Everything that arises from something that appears to be invisible, whether it's an electron arising in an atom, or it's the Big Bang in a universe arising out of what appears to be nothingness. Everything that appears is appearing from something or some place that is non-seen. It's sustained and guided by invisible forces, and it eventually merges back into what is unseen again. So just because it's not seen doesn't mean it's not there, though. So the purpose of Shakti is to connect with that interface, to connect into that primordial world or that kingdom of heaven that does lie within us. That's what self-realization and God realization is, by the way. It's entering into that spiritual world or that spiritual kingdom where you see God in everything, everywhere, all the time.
That's a beautiful vision that I have always lived by, because even when I've studied with indigenous cultures, they're always saying, giving blessings before they enter a room, before they pick a flower, before they, do anything. They're always giving some kind of blessings to whatever that might be. The Native Americans is during sweat lodges, it's to the rock people. It's everything around them has a life. So,
right. Has spirit.
Has spirit, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Has a spirit. By the way, as your viewers and listeners are participating, if they just put their hands up, even as we're speaking, they'll begin to tune into what we call Shaktipat, because it's being transmitted along with the sound and the images. And you'll begin to feel a tingly sensation in your hands if you don't already feel it. And all they or any of us have to do is like tune into it and allow ourselves to receive it. And you can even draw it in as you inhale. You can just pull it in from your arms into your body. And pretty soon your whole body will begin to buzz. So you can have the experience of it while you're listening to this discussion.
Mm-hmm. And I remember you said on another time when someone said, "How long do we keep our arms up for?" It's
as long as you want.
As long as you want.
Yeah. When your arms get tired, you can put them down. But, putting the hands up, because we feel things with our hands. Sometimes it just makes it more tangible if you can physically touch the energy, so to speak. And so if they put their hands up, it's easier to feel something in the palms of your hands and fingers than it is, say, on your face or other parts of your body. Even though your whole epidermis will feel something tactily, your hands are the primary instrument for feeling and touch. So by putting your hands up, you'll feel the energy. And if your hands have been up, the other thing we can do is to turn the palms so they face each other. Now that you've kind of gathered some of that energy, and imagine you're squeezing a beach ball in front of your chest. And you'll actually feel those biomagnetic fields between your hands. You can actually kind of squeeze the beach ball, keeping it. That's exactly just like you're doing now. And that field will get stronger. And this is true anytime that we do a meditation together or you listen to a talk, because the whole purpose is to transmit the energy. It's not the information. It's the spirit that we're connecting with at a level that your mind may not even be cognizant of. But the energy is there. And as we learn, the more we tune in, the easier it gets to tune in. The ability develops with practice. And that's why we have these courses, like the self-realization course that's starting tonight. It's so people can gain the training in learning how to not only tune in, but build up that energy and learn to take themselves into higher levels of consciousness by doing it week after week after week after week and having a, quote, master or teacher kind of pull it out of you. You know, the light's within you, but the idea is, how do you bring that light out? How do you bring that light out to what you think and say and do? That's what enlightenment is. It's bringing what you already are into the forefront of your own awareness so that you think and speak and act from that place of higher consciousness.
I sure hope you enjoyed that clip with Stephen Sadlier. He was also a part of our yoga and meditation conference, our virtual world yoga and meditation conference a couple of years ago. And I'm sure that he will be one of our guests that we will bring back for a series of meditations. He is wonderful, very exciting, as you've just experienced. And if you would like to listen to the whole show, I invite you to go back to Trinity of Life episode number 4. For any comments and suggestions, please scroll down on your screen and type it into the comment box, and we'll be sure to get back to you or pass the message on to Stephen. Or if you would prefer to give us a call on 818-LETS-TALK, 818-LETS-TALK. And make sure that you leave us your contact number or email address so that we can get back to you and let you know that we received your message. We invite you to check out our newsletter shows for 2014. It is coming up very quickly, and like Meditation Madness, check it out and see if it might be something aligned with you for the coming year. Until next time, I'm Christina Suzama. Namaste. YHTV's Trinity of Life. Come join me, Christina Suzama, as I journey to find the many modalities that support individuals, from children to adults to elders, with topics ranging from health and wellness, meditation, and inspirational stories. I invite you to visit yogahub.tv every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Many people that I know that are trying to diet, for example, and that seems to be on the minds of many today, they always feel, oh, if I miss a meal, that's much better because that way I can lose weight.
I am not an advocate of skipping meals because my experience is that it catches up with people. It's the old catch-22 of I'm going to be good during the day. I'm going to have this teeny breakfast and this teeny lunch, and then I'm starving and I'm going to crash and burn late at night and eat a half a gallon of ice cream.